We're going to, as we always do, give some bold predictions heading into the weekend. I'm going to cheat a little, and I can see the bold predictions on the screen here right in front of me. So that's why I want to start with BMAC's bold prediction, because I love where his head is at this week.
No question, one of the bigger stories in the National Football League from a week ago. The Cleveland Browns, yes, some positivity associated with that organization, primarily because of the new quarterback in Jameis Winston. So my bold prediction is Jameis once again will throw for at least 300 yards against a very, very stout defensive unit in the Los Angeles Chargers. And get this, guys, he will also lead the Cleveland Browns to another victory. At home, the stadium is going to be filled to capacity. They want to see number 5 give his pregame speech. They want to see number 5 get guys fired up on the sideline. The morale is totally in a different direction. And this is my bold prediction. Jameis will throw at the bare minimum 300 yards, but most importantly, he's going to be 2-0 as the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns by Sunday night.
B-Mac, without a doubt, they got that move right. Jameis Winston rolls right in there, and they get a shot in the arm. Everybody seems to be playing a little bit different. Obviously, going down the field, that's great. I've got a bold prediction, too, that involves going down the field. I think if we see Jordan Love out there for the Green Bay Packers, it's going to be the questions about Detroit is how do we get home on Jordan Love? How can we generate pass rush without our guy Aiden Hutchinson? Well, I think the plan is this. We're going to flip the whole scheme on its head. We're going to drop a bunch of guys into coverage, similar to what we saw against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs when they kept taking the tops off of defenses. We've seen Green Bay do this before. I think Aaron Glenn puts his guys in great position on the second level to be able to turn the ball over twice. That's Jordan Love, 2 interceptions to Brian Branch. That's what I think. And the Lions win this one, Mike. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for the Lions this weekend.
You see, Kyle, this is why I want to start with BMAC. This is why I want to start with BMAC.
But Mike, before you get on Kyle for that foolishness, I would like to say something. I actually have Joy Love on my fantasy team, and I don't need that to happen, Kyle. Usually I root for bold predictions, but I'm already in the dumps right now because Jordan Love has been injured more than healthy, and I'm fighting for my life. So hopefully Jordan Love does not receive that energy from Kyle. It's your show, Mike. You got it.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything bad about Brian Branch. I think he's playing elite level football. That was one of my favorite picks last year. He was one of the Rookie of the Year candidates on the defensive side of the football. He's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate the way he's playing this year. But I don't see it happening. I don't think if Jordan Love plays, that's a big if at this point, and we'll get to that matchup because there's some great matchups in that game a little bit later. If he plays, I think Jordan Love's going to play a conservative brand of football. I think they're going to run the ball a lot in that game. If he does play, try to protect him in that groin. But the guy who scares me isn't really Brian Branch. It's Kirby Joseph, because Kirby Joseph takes some chances on the back end. He can make a pick when you didn't think he was going to be there because he freelances a little bit. That's why he has 5 picks on the year. But also he can be susceptible on the back end. So that's the guy I'm looking at too. If he has a big game, I don't think the Packers beat the Lions. But if he doesn't have a big game, if he busts a few coverages, I think the Packers could take that one home. My bold prediction, and this one's bold because I think it's the biggest line of the entire weekend. I think the Broncos have a legit chance to beat the Baltimore Ravens. I know this juggernaut offensively that they have is special. It's probably the best offense in the NFL. I'm not breaking any ground saying that. But this might be the best defense in the NFL that they're facing in the Denver Broncos. Both of these teams are 5-3. You know, the Ravens, for as good as everyone thinks they are, and truly I think they're a special team, they are beatable for a reason. They've lost 3 games for a reason. 1 to the Raiders, 1 to the Cleveland Browns. These are not elite level football teams. So a 9.5 line to me is just disrespectful to Denver and what they've been doing of late and what Bo Nix has been doing. And it's playing complementary football. He has the lowest turnover-worthy play rate in the NFL since week 3, according to PFF. Only 1 pick over his last 6 games. This guy's playing a kind of football that you can win with when you have the defense that they do. And oh, by the way, the Ravens still down 2 corners, still down Marlon Humphrey, still down Nate Wiggins. If those guys don't play, the Broncos beat the Ravens.
Yeah, I think there's going to be so much on the plate of Bo Nix because Sean Payton obviously is going to be overemphasizing the fact that we don't want to give extra possessions to the Baltimore Ravens and that juggernaut of an offense. So we're going to try not to turn the ball over. I look for the Broncos to rely heavily on that run game early on and lean on their defense. So you talked about it's a mighty group over there in Denver. They know how to play the defensive side of the football. But I think that'll open some stuff on the back end for Bo Nix as this game goes along. You talked about the injuries in the secondary for Baltimore. Look for Bo Nix to say, hey, I can dink and dunk, but I'm also going to try to take some shots. I wouldn't be surprised if Sean Payton slipped in some of those explosives as the game went along, Mike.
You know what, Mike? I actually was looking at that game as well when I was trying to figure out which direction I was going to go for this segment with the bold prediction segment. And the thing about this game, I agree with you as well. But the thing about this game is kind of giving week 2 vibes, right? Remember week 1, Baltimore, close game, lost to Kansas City, and then they ended up getting, I think it was the Raiders, week 2, if I'm not mistaken. Week 2, and I think they were fake. Yeah, they were favored like 8 or 9 points. And then, of course, the Raiders found a way to scrap and claw. They won that ball game. So I see 2 things happening in this matchup between the Broncos and the Ravens. I see either Denver winning this ball game or they getting blown out. I don't see anything in between. And I think either or could happen, but I would not be surprised, to your point, when you look at how well Sean Payton is calling the offense with Bo Nix. Those 2 individuals have figured each other out, which is a great thing. And defensively, that's a very, very opportunistic, sticky group on all 3 levels. So this could be a really, really intriguing matchup that could work in the favor of the Broncos.
I at least think the line is a little too high. I want to circle back, though, BMAC, to your prediction, because this Browns team with Jameis versus before, and Kyle touched on this, it's not just that the offense looked better. Right? They just had more life as a unit. Whether it's the offensive line, played probably one of their best games of the season, this defensive front making a stop when it mattered most. Do we see this Browns team as having a legit chance to get back into this? They beat say your bold prediction lives up to the hype. They beat the Chargers this week. They're 3-6 when the wild card in the AFC right now is just at 500 or just over 500 at 4-3. The Los Angeles Chargers, they would be at 500 then because obviously they'd have beaten the Chargers. So at 3-6, can they get back into this with Jameis Winston, BMAC?
Yeah, no question, because this is still a talented roster. Remember, the majority of this roster is still together from what we saw last season in a successful run. I know you don't have Amari Cooper, but the majority, the bulk is still there. And Nick Chubb will be more acclimated to the offense, being more in football shape. He just returned to action, and you're starting to see a few glimpses of his production. Most importantly, he's healthy. But they have talent. It wasn't like this team didn't have any talent. They were dealing with injuries on the offensive line, as well as you stated. Now they're getting healthier. And most importantly, the morale of the team has changed. There's something about Jameis where guys gravitate towards him. Every stop he's been a likable individual. He's been highly respected. And they go to war for Jameis. And that's what we saw last week. And think about this, Kyle. Think about how many teams you've been a part of. How many times have you been a part of a team, Kyle, or just seen from the outside looking in? The backup quarterback is the guy who gives the speech before we go to battle. You don't usually see that, but that's been his role since being in Cleveland. Yeah, so that tells you how much respect they have for him, and I wasn't surprised to see the success that he instantly gave them when he jumped into the lineup.
And sometimes you see these guys that give these pregame speeches, these rah-rah speeches, and some of us roll our eyes at speech guys. But the thing I love about Jameis Winston is that comes from his heart. When you see him in the tunnel giving his pregame thoughts, this is a guy that's not only talking to his peers, but he's trying to convince himself to go out there and play possess. And the thing that's awesome is even his speeches, which are great and motivated by his truth and you know what he's trying to get accomplished, it's not perfect. It's just like his style of play. You know that he'll give you a chance, and there's still going to be those plays that have you scratching your head. But at the end of the day, it's a guy who's going out there and laying it out on the line for your team. And that's why you see this Browns team playing so much better.
And even if they don't turn this around, he's making our jobs easier because the man is a content machine. His quote this week, did you see it when he said, "You can't say the sky's the limit when people have gone to the moon"? I mean, yeah, Jameis, truly a one of one.